Thomas Sutler usually comes on. Michelle, do you know who else is coming?
Okay, we're live.
I'm live now. Michelle?
I know that Dan Moncher is the only one that contacted me, and he said he probably had a conflict this morning. I
Yeah,
did
well,
not hear from
I know where
anybody else.
Dan's at, so I mean, well,
Murray.
so-
Call Murray.
so, Michelle, how many do we need for a quorum?
Don't think.
Help my memory. Mr. Murray's on now.
You got a quorum.
Morning.
Good morning, Dennis.
We don't have anything to vote on, so I'm not sure if a quorum matters.
I was just, for the minutes, I was gonna ask for a motion. If we got, it appears we have a quorum.
I think four. With Mr. Murray, we should be good.
1, 2, yeah, so,
You can move up here, Wad.
okay, I'll open the meeting. Stuart says everything's live, and ask for the approval of the July 17th minutes.
So moved.
So moved.
Second.
Seconded, discussion, all in favor?
Aye.
Again, I want to thank everybody for coming to these extra meetings. I know it's something out of your day, but I think it's incredibly important that we stay on top of this, because I think as we all see, things are changing on a daily basis, if not quicker. So I think being proactive and I think hopefully we get through it with Godspeed, so. Okay. New business, Michelle, you want to talk about the 2020 budget, or do you want to talk about the email you sent last night to?
Sure, I can jump in. Just as a reminder, going back to the end of July, when I sent those reports, our July general fund balance was about $3.1 million. Revenues were down about $2.7 million. Our expenditures were also down about $1.6 million. And obviously Cedar Point just opened last month, July 9th. So this will be the first month in August that we'll be seeing admissions tax
Is
from
now
Cedar
joining.
Point. The admissions tax is due on the 20th of the month, but I think we've seen that the post office slowdown has slowed some of that down, as we did not receive much for income tax, or I'm sorry, for admissions tax yet this month. We did do the journal entry for the CARES Act funding last month. That was over $504,000, where we were able to take the federal stimulus dollars and apply it to our police and fire wages, which was a great help to our budget. At the moment, our full-time employee count is 231 employees. That number is fluctuating, but that's where we were at the end of July. As a reminder, at the end of last year, we had 253 full-time employees. So that full-time employee count being down has been able to help us with our expenditures this year. Moving on to the report that I sent you guys last night, and that was just a recap of where we stand, a more current synopsis of where we were at as of August 20th.
Okay.
So-
In your comments, and again, I don't like these Zoom meetings because I seem like I'm interrupting you, but you made the comment that we would probably receive whatever admission tax. Yesterday, did we receive anything? I couldn't hear.
No. She said no.
No. So it'll come
Correct.
today, or does it electronically come in? I mean, it just,
No, most of them are by mail. So I know there's been a slowdown in the post office also. So if they were
Can't tell us the
postmarked
number right
yesterday,
I'm sorry?
They can tell us
it'll
the
probably be
number
the
right
first part
now.
of next week.
I used to contact them, I used to contact the county directly to get numbers on behalf of this committee.
Oh.
I'm surprised that, can't pick up the phone and find out what it is. Right? I mean, I drive by there, I can pick it up. Dick, you drive through the parking lot every
Sure.
morning.
Yeah.
I used to, when we had a death tax, the day that it was available, I used to go over to the county, I was a
I'll tell you
representative
what,
from the
Michelle,
city and picked it
instead
up.
of debating that, can you ask a favor that sometime today you contact Cedar Point to find out what that number's going to be, and then email the committee? That's
Sure,
something-
absolutely. We'll get with them and see what we can release.
I'm sorry?
Absolutely, we will contact them and see what we can release.
Yeah. Steve's not on, otherwise we would make him go next door to his office and look. Okay, I'm sorry I interrupted you, and
That's okay.
I apologize
So on
if I don't hear, and speaking through this damn mask is a pain in the you-know-what.
Need a donut.
It doesn't sound, Mr. Stahl. Mr. Stahl.
Thank you, Michelle. Nobody's
Hey.
laughing.
All right,
Come on,
so-
Murray, laugh.
No, here's the thing. We know the budget's in dire straits when I say we have to take up a collection as you come in the door for Mr. Stahl's Donuts. Okay, I'm sorry, Michelle. Go, keep going.
Okay, so the revenues through yesterday, through August 20th, general fund revenues that we've collected were $11.3 million. So as a reminder, we had about $24.5 million budgeted in revenue this year. So we've collected 46% of what we projected for the year. On the expenditure side, we've expended about $12.1 million, or nearly half of what we had projected for the year. Typically, what we receive in revenues for the end of the year is quite substantial, because that is obviously when Cedar Point is in business and our lodging tax and our emissions tax comes in. If I look at the 2019 reports of revenue just from September through December, it was almost $7.2 million.
Right.
Obviously, this year, we're in a different situation. Things have drastically changed. I have revenue projections of showing about almost $4.6 million coming in revenue this year. So again, a drastic change. And we're doing everything we can, obviously, on the expenditure side to pull down expenditures as best we can. I have the 2020 expenditures projections to be about 78% of our budget. Of what we budgeted was, again, that $24.5 million. We've decreased our expenditures by just about $5.2 million for 2020. So I know Mr. Murray, he's right on. He had asked a question this morning about revenues and where we're going to be, and it is concerning. Today we have a healthy looking general cash balance, considering everything that we've gone through this year of $4.1 million. But again, these next couple months are going to be telling, I think, a different story, as we're not going to be receiving the large lodging and emissions tax dollars that we know.
So where do we stand with the stabilization fund? We took the cash out of that to make the, you smiled, you know I was going to ask that question. Where do we stand?
I know. So last meeting, we said it was going to be about $270,000 at the end of the year. And since then, we've had 2 more people announce their retirements. It's going to be about $83,000 in addition. So that's going to put our payroll stabilization fund just under $200,000 at the end of the year. And that's as I know things today. So as everyone knows, things are changing drastically. So at this point, I don't look to have much left in payroll stabilization at the end of this year. I do know of possibly one for sure, possibly a second retirement in January or February of next year that are coming. So thank goodness again we had it.
Okay, I want to make sure I understood.
Pretty quickly.
I'll make sure I understood what you said. If the retirements are January and February next year, did you take that into consideration with stabilization fund? Or you're telling me that we're going to be down to a couple $100,000 and we know we have 2 retirements coming right in first part of 21? Is that what I heard you say?
Correct.
Okay.
Correct. The figure I gave you was just through the end of 2020, and then anything that happens in 2021, we're going to have to look at funding in our budget again, an amount for payroll stabilization.
But you, again, I apologize for re-asking any questions. But we know that we have 2 retirements in January, February of 21?
Correct.
So we know, do we have any idea what those payouts, have you guesstimated it yet?
I looked at it before off the top of my head. I want to say they were combined maybe $45,000.
Okay. You know, I just didn't want you to tell me they were $300,000 or some astronomical number. So we're taking the
Right.
stabilization fund down to the couple $100,000, and hopefully we'll have enough in there to pay off the $45,000 that we get hit with the first part of 21, because obviously revenues aren't going to go anywhere in January and February. Even if Cedar Point was open, you wouldn't have anything.
Absolutely. Yeah, we're excited that Cedar Point is going to stay open through the end of October, so we'll have a little bit of revenue and emissions tax hopefully coming in, lodging tax also. We're hoping without the college football games that people are going to spend days with their family out at Cedar Point this fall.
But again, they're limited in the number of people they can get through the gate. Have you had the conversation that we had talked about that I think Steve Tomasula said that they were going to give you some kind of a guesstimate to what they thought?
We did.
Okay. Is that something you feel comfortable saying in a public meeting or not?
No, it's not.
Okay.
No, they asked us to keep that in confidence at the moment.
Okay, that's okay. Okay. And I appreciate that. That's why I asked that question. So, have you shared it with either Mr. Murray or Mr. Brady?
I have not directly. I'm not sure if Mr. Whoopser has had those conversations.
No.
Okay. Dennis, have you heard, or Dick, have you heard it?
I have not.
I don't want the number on it.
I have not.
Okay.
Yeah, I don't know that I really need to know that number. I think Michelle needs to know that number,
Yes.
and perhaps, but it's kind of a roll-up. You know, we have the information in the city someplace, and that's all I need to know.
Okay.
So, Mr. Chairman, would this be appropriate time for me to just kind of get into a general discussion about where we're headed?
I think that would be a great thing.
Okay. Well, thank you, Michelle, for your response and for your diligence. I'm just trying to get a sense of whether we feel that we are on track in terms of the budget. I know the staff has made some amazing cuts and very difficult cuts and done a really incredible job under difficult circumstances in keeping a lid on expenses. As I understand it, at very high level numbers, we're looking at, we have cut expenditures about 22%. And I'm not sure if we have talked about whether or not that is a sustainable number through the end of the year, maybe even slightly declining from there. That is, we may end up cutting expenses a little bit better than 22% through attrition. Does that sound about right?
Absolutely.
I would agree with that.
Okay. And you at this point are projecting revenues to be down about 33%.
Correct.
So that's about an 11. I mean, this is the math that lawyers can do. So don't push it any farther. But that's about 11% gap versus a $24 million budget. So something like 2.6 million would be required in terms of either further cuts or money we would withdraw from the reserve. And we've talked about cutting or taking as much as $2 million out of the reserve this year and next, although given the seasonality of our revenues, it doesn't seem that full $2 million is possible. It seems like, maybe 1.7, 1.8 is a realistic number in terms of what we can draw out of the general fund. So it really, big picture, it looks to me as though we have about another $1 million to cut out of expenditures. And the problem is that the longer we wait to do that, the more severe the impact is. So I'm pretty well alarmed about the direction we're headed in. I wish we had more participants in the meeting today, but
I wish Mr. Whoopser was here because, again, Dennis, I agree with you that I'd like to see a plan of some sort, okay, that says this is how I'm getting that $1 million out of the budget or out of the expenditures. And I think that's why we are having these extra meetings. Again, I want to voice my my displeasure, the fact that Mr. Whoopser's not here telephonically, that we can ask him these questions. Everybody comes to these meetings, and we would hope that, administration would take it as seriously as we do, and maybe that was a cheap shot, and I apologize for that, but Dennis,
Well, I think he had
sorry?
some scheduled time, Mr. Chairman, so.
I'm sorry?
I just, that's important too.
Mr. Chairman, I'm not sure we're being used correctly, Dennis. You've got guys that have been here 15 years that have all know about revenues and expenses, been through the highs and lows in the city and been through them with you. And we come down here and I send an email to work in the morning. I'll say, I might not be back till 10 or 11 because we have a lot of work in front of us. And a lot of work that I understand now is being farmed out, so we don't really have access to. But stuff that I perceived that we were supposed to do and are very capable of doing, that we could sit around and have, now I understand it won't come till next month. We could have this information for you at the beginning of the week. And really can. I mean, the thing I feel that, and I'm not speaking specifically for any one of these members, but we're like horses at a race. We're ready to go. We're ready to work. And we just get reports. I mean, we don't. Am I making myself clear where I'm coming from?
I guess the frustration is that we're not here, been able to have a discussion about where cuts are going to come. And I'm looking, Dick, take this the right way, and Dick's kind of looking like, well, I'm not sure where they're coming to there. I don't know if you've had a conversation with Mr. Whoopser about, or Dennis, have you had a conversation, or Mr. Waddington? I lose you. How the hell I can lose you is beyond me. But Mr. Waddington?
I made no councils. Well, I'm here.
So,
I see Eric's about to join us.
Yes, I know.
Someone let Eric in?
I just did.
Oh, good. Good morning, Eric.
you saw something I didn't. Okay, I was looking at my screen. I'm sorry, Dennis. You said Eric's here?
Yeah, Eric.
I'm on. I apologize. It's back to school week in our house, and for my wife, and we had a little bit of a child care snafu, but I'm here now, and I apologize for being late.
So, Mr. Chairman, could I bring Mr. Whoopser up to speed?
Go ahead, Dennis. I didn't.
Oh, okay, I just was asking if it'd be okay if I brought Mr. Whoopser up to speed.
Yeah. Yes.
So, okay, thank you.
Bring him up.
And so,
Yeah.
Eric, what we have discussed is, well, Michelle has kind of walked us through where we are in terms of the incredible efforts of staff to keep a lid on expenses, but the persistently disappointing revenue that we're looking at in very round numbers. Looks like we'd be down expenditures so far 22%, maybe a little better with attrition as the year unfolds. And then we would be down revenues, excuse me, on the order of 33%. So about an 11% gap. Excuse me, I'm going to sound like you before I'm finished. And then we talked about what is a sustainable level in terms of withdrawals from the reserve. And so we're looking at a gap of something on the order of $2.6 million and probably the ability to withdraw, 1.7, 1.8 from the reserve this year and next if we had to do it both years. So still looking at a gap, and that's just through the balance of this year. And we're just spitballing, okay? I mean, that's all we're doing. But we're still looking at a gap of something perhaps on the order of $800,000 for the balance of the year in terms of cuts that would be necessary in order to be able to keep the withdrawal from the reserve at that level. So that's where we were. And I just, Mr. Stahl, I do want to address one thing. FRM, we're not really farming that out. That is a grant funded study that is extraordinary in its nature and considerably beyond what most municipalities would have any ability to undertake. So it's a different study, but it will be very valuable to us. Thank you.
Well, Dennis, I think that the angst on this side of the table was nobody knew about it. And by not knowing about it, it leads to a lot of questions and then made us wonder, are they going to usurp what we do? And it almost felt like to some of us that felt that way. And,
Well, I'm sorry.
we don't know who
I'm
these
sorry,
people
It
are.
was reported in the newspaper, so, and it's been, I think it's been fairly widely publicized. I did not understand how it was that this committee felt that they were unaware of that study.
We didn't know about it until we heard about it here. We just thought we should have known about it, and maybe somebody sends us a background on the people and who, what, where, and why. That's all, Dennis. You have a ton of stuff going on. We understand that, and it's probably just a communications issue. And am I saying that correctly, Al?
Yeah,
And
it just-
Brent are both nodding their heads up and down, which you can't see,
Yes.
or maybe you can and I can't. But I think not in a malicious way in any form or fashion. We're all in the same boat, and we all have our ideas, and maybe we thought our ideas weren't being.
We thought that the group would at least, if nobody else on here, at least interviewed me and said, hey, we're thinking this way or thinking that way. I got caught short. Mr. Brady said the last meeting he wasn't aware of what was going on. So it just.
Mr. Chairman,
Yes.
I was certainly aware of what was going on, but I was surprised that the Finance Committee had not been
Okay.
advised of this. And I think probably a communication, we relied on you reading the newspaper, I guess. That's probably not the best route to take when you have volunteers such as yourself that have done it for 5, 10, 15 years in many cases. So I certainly apologize for that. At the conclusion of our last meeting, I did ask Michelle to reach out to this Finance Committee and explain to you exactly the direction we were going, why we were going that direction, and that it was in no means meant to usurp any of your authority. That we have always appreciated, will continue to appreciate your input. I apologize for not making you part of that process on an earlier basis. And I think we were all hopeful, staff, Michelle, Dennis, Eric, and myself, were all very optimistic that we were going to have some conclusion to these outside finance people's work that they're doing, so that we could really dig into this today. And now it appears that we won't have that until September. That's unfortunate. I agree with Mr. Murray. The clock is at 11, quickly heading to 11:30 right now. So,
And again, to address that, we'll accept that and we'll wait for the report, but I want to get back to the numbers that Mr. Murray was doing at a very high level, that we need to cut somewhere around $800,000. I'm a CPA without a calculator, so I'm not going to give you an exact dollar amount, but Eric, that's when I was hoping that you were going to be here, and you are now, and give us some kind of a high level, not necessarily the person, where are we going to start these cuts? And I think Mr. Murray is 100% correct. Yesterday would have been a good time, but I think it's not something that we can put off for any length of time. Does that summarize what you basically said, Dennis?
Yeah, more or less, but I feel as though, I'm not going to point fingers here, but I really feel as though staff is being a little thrown under the bus here. There have been attempts, and I'm not going to point out who and when. There have been attempts to communicate with the committee about the study that's ongoing, and it's not work that this committee would normally do. It's different from that, but I'm going to leave it at that. There have been miscommunications, and I think the miscommunications have many parents. And I'll just turn to Eric to let him kind of
through the commission or the committee chair to the committee. I just want to state, we have reached out since the July meeting to let folks know, and I apologize if there wasn't more direct communication about the role that PFM was going to be playing. But what I would say is, it's just a reminder that we are still a month away from when they will present. So there is plenty of time for this committee, who I believe we've been very transparent with over the last 6 years. And so we apologize if we've offended anyone or there's been a miscommunication in regards to having a new finance director in a pandemic at a time where we received the grant to work with this group. But I can assure you it wasn't intentional. And I hope that our very strong working relationship over the previous years would help you to understand that none of that was intentional. We greatly respect the work of your committee. With that being said, I would like to turn it over to Michelle for a little bit to discuss both the process with PFM going forward, so
Okay,
we can make sure we make
Eric,
the
I'm
best use
gonna
of
roll
what
you
use that
back.
we
You
have,
never answered my
as well
question.
as,
Eric,
and to Dennis's
Eric,
point, is there a sense that we could
Eric,
be down more
Eric,
than what we have projected? Potentially, yes, but I don't know also that that's a
Eric.
certainty because things have been changing, and so I'd ask for her to jump in if that's okay. And so, and
Eric.
I'd also say too,
That's
we
done.
picked up on PFM or this grant
I
during
still-
the
I still wanna
transition
get back
between finance
to-
directors. So with that, I'll turn it over to Michelle, but I'm happy to discuss further.
Okay, again, the question on the table, and again, not that Michelle, she can talk, obviously, again, but the question on the table is, have you put together a plan, whether it be on paper, in your mind, how you're going to go about cutting this $800,000? Because I think.
So, Al,
Can I finish, sir? Sir, can I
It's
finish?
what's that?
Can I finish?
I'm having a hard time hearing you. Can you hear me?
Okay, okay. Can I finish my
Just to be clear,
statement,
this
please?
$800,000 is a number.
Can I,
I don't think there's a consensus on the fact that we're going to be down further $800,000 than we're down now. I think there needs to be further conversation about that, and that's part of the process that we're in currently. So we are constantly planning about how we would cut more resources, but I do think that that's a conversation that will need more conversation on staff, with the commission, with this committee. I am not in a place today where I've seen the information that says with certainty we have to make those cuts. And again, between where we think we're going to be this year and next year, to make an assumption now that the deficit spending this year should be the same amount that it is next year may not be the case. And so I think there's still more questions to be answered. And again, I would have Michelle step in and talk in a little bit more detail. But yes, we are planning.
Dennis, are you happy with that
details in place?
explanation?
But that is where we're at as of today.
Mr. Brady,
Well-
Mr. Murray, Mr. Waddington, are you happy with that explanation? You're laughing. What?
No, I'm not laughing. I'm absolutely not laughing.
No, no,
I was spitballing, and I said it at the outset that, those were round numbers that I
Yes.
just
Oh, absolutely.
was up there for purposes of a conversation. Eric is right. He's absolutely right. There isn't a consensus that we're going to be down those kinds of numbers. I have always been the one who was most fearful of having, and I've been pretty open about that we were going to have a bigger deficit than maybe the committee as a whole thought. And I've been wrong a lot of times too. So, that's just where we are. And I'm satisfied with Eric's answer.
Mr. Chairman,
Yes.
I think that what I'm hearing from at least from the chair anyway, of this finance committee, is it responsible for us to have a plan in place in the very likely event that the cuts need to go deeper? Isn't
Yes.
that what you're asking?
Absolutely.
And I don't think that that's unreasonable for us to have a plan or to put a plan together for that in the likely event that Mr. Murray's prognostications could be correct, and that this committee is satisfied that we have a plan that we can implement once this becomes somewhat clear. It certainly is not clear now.
Because what I don't want to see happen, Mr. Brady, is all of a sudden instead of being proactive, we're reactive. And when you're reactive and you start making the cuts, I think it just gives us a black eye. So I think
I'm on a conference call.
I don't think that was for us.
Okay.
So through the committee to the chair, I think that we are crossed here because we are bringing a professionally guided report to you next month that can speak exactly to these things. Would we have liked those things for this month? Yes. But also that gives us more time with this information. It's certainly another lost month, but in the grand scheme of things, when we're planning over 12, 24-month budget cycles, we're in a position to bring really good guidance and have additional information on revenue at that time. And so I don't think we're that far off from where everyone wants to be. I think there's been some misunderstandings, and I would love to clear those up. But we are planning. We are still, those numbers as to where we'll be this year and where we'll be next year are still moving targets because there's so much uncertainty. But we also have a month between now and when we can bring you information to further do those plans. We also will have that put together by someone with a great deal of experience and who's looking at trends not only in Sandusky but also throughout the country as to how this pandemic is impacting local government revenue.
Mr. Chairman.
Mr. Stahl?
Eric, you may remember at the last meeting, I was the one that tried to change the conversation away from hiring this new company. Al even looked at me and said, Mr. Stahl, I'm talking. So you kept the floor, and I was trying to quiet things down. I wasn't so far against bringing someone in. I just didn't like the way it was done. And then I was really happy that we were doing it because this time is of the essence. We all know that in business. I drive through that parking lot, and I drove through there this morning. There are no cars there. There was no cars there yesterday when I went home. We all know that. Time is of the essence, and when I heard last month that this PBS or whatever this thing is called was going to have the report today and that we were told we could make more accurate decisions today, when I looked at my computer yesterday and it said that wouldn't be available for a month, I'm thinking, heck, we're after September. Our year is in our fourth quarter at that point. It's the fourth quarter of our economic, not only football season, but our economic football season. So there was some disappointments. Had I known about it a little earlier, I think I would have felt better. That's all. And I want to be a complete team member.
Did we lose Mr. Murray?
I think
Okay.
he's back.
No, there he is.
Okay.
Did you get that, Dennis?
I think we've gone to the fact that there's been some miscommunication. Now, let's start now. Let's get whatever the report is, but get a plan in because, my glass is always half full, and sometimes that's a mistake too. But I think we have to plan for the worst and hope for the best.
Through you, Commission Chair, this is Michelle. I just wanted to jump in, and I'll take some of the blame as far as this PFM. This was something I know that was talked about late last year, and I was not aware that you guys didn't know. I obviously came in January. It did go through commission and all that happened. So again, sorry for any miscommunication. It was not anyone's intention to leave anybody out of this. We will have that presentation to you in draft form, I'm hoping within the next 2 weeks. So that way you guys have time to look it all over and look at this financial forecast and see, give us input on what you guys think, and we'll definitely take your guys' advice. You guys do have a lot of experience. We'd love to hear it. Mr. Murray's comments about, our cash balance and where we're going to be this year, it is alarming, but like I've said, I always am going to be conservative on revenue figures. I don't want to overstate where our revenue projections are. So the number of, maybe we need to cut another $700,000 out of this budget from what we're looking at today might be a reality. And I can tell you that, Eric and I will continue to have those conversations, and things are constantly changing. So we are going to be diligent and continued meeting, and we'll keep you guys advised of changes and what's going on here to hopefully put everyone at ease and we can get through this year. And again, that PFM presentation will help us with our 5-year forecast and look at the sustainability of what are we looking to have for expenses in years going forward. And obviously, there's going to be some cuts and things that have happened that might continue, that happened this year that might continue into next year. And that's where we'll have these conversations and get input from you guys. So we appreciate everyone taking the time to be here and talk through this, as this has been a challenging year to say the least.
You're welcome. And got my note, because if I don't make notes, I'll forget. You're going to, when you do find out what the emission tax is for the month of, August, I guess, you're going to email that to the committee?
Absolutely. I'll let you guys know.
Okay. I mean, you did a great job. I realize you can't put something in there you don't know what it is, okay? But I like the way you reforecasted everything and, yes. Again, having lived through 2008, Mr. Saw, Mr. Murray, at least this year, this time, we had the stabilization fund, thank goodness. And we have some reserves, because we started with no stabilization fund and $1.5 million in the bank and still had to pay out people. So for that purpose, we are sitting in a better shape. And as Mr. Murray's indicated, we can take money out this year and take money out next year, but how long is this going to go on? And that's where I think Mr. Murray is 100% correct, is that we have to have a plan and have to have some cuts ready, because I just don't want to all of a sudden on Monday morning say, okay, fire department or station number whatever gets closed, or that was a really rough time, Dennis, the last time we had to do that.
It was indeed, and I apologize. I dropped off the call for a minute. I had some computer problems, but look, it's well and good that we have a wide diversity of opinions and backgrounds that come to bear on the question of what we do next. I'm very satisfied with the direction the staff is heading in. You just need to understand that I worry about stuff all the time. That's what I do for a living. And 80% of the stuff I worry about never comes to pass. Great, that's great for my clients. But I got to worry about it and be prepared for it in case it happens. So that's just the perspective I bring to bear. So don't overreact to that, please.
But again, my comment was plan for the worst and hope for the best.
Get a virus. I mean, get a solution to the virus. It'll all change overnight.
I have a feeling
You could take Putin's right now.
I didn't hear what you said.
I'm sorry, Dennis.
I said you could take Putin's vaccine right now. I think he just gave it to the opposition, who's now in the hospital.
He's in a coma.
Dennis, I'm a brave guy and a little crazy once in a while, but I'm not nuts.
Well, okay, none of us can give an opinion on that.
Yeah.
Okay.
Well, he appointed me, so.
Michelle, do you have anything else that you want to bring up other than the September meeting should be interesting?
Absolutely. And like I said, we'll get you guys the information as soon as we can, so you guys can give us feedback and critique everything.
If you would send out, if we know that it's going to come, and we're going to have it for September, okay, let's make sure that we get as many members either on whatever program Stuart uses, so that everybody can hear it. It's the best attendance would be really good. So I think if you say something to Dan a little ahead of time, and I'm going to be talking to Dan on something completely different a little later today, and I'm just going to remind him that he puts in red or whatever he does in his calendar, or however we do it, that the 18th meeting's there, and hopefully Mr. Tomasula can to join us too. I think Dennis is right. We got a lot of diverse minds, got a lot of diverse opinions, but I think this group with the proper tools can help guide us, and hopefully we get through it and come out this great city we are.
And it's okay to just tell the chairman what's going on. We know this committee normally, for just as a refresher, works and speaks through the chairman. And so my impression was the chairman knows almost everything that's going on. He can disseminate to us or have staff disseminate to us what he believes we should know. But there's a lot of times that the staff talks directly with the chairman, and for example, Mr. Gardner and I would not know that. And there's only one piece. This committee also works well. We learned an Andy White tool a long time ago. There's only one person authorized to speak for the committee, and that's the chairman. And it's worked well.
Having said that, anything else, Brett?
Nope, I'm good.
I don't want to, Mr. Chairman, I don't want to revisit this. I think we're perhaps hopefully beating a dead horse at this point, but it was upon my insistence a month ago that Michelle reach out to the chairman, and I know that, I'm certain that you did that, Michelle, and thank you for doing that. If we were a month late or a couple months late in doing that, so be it. We all fall on our sword for that, but thank you for reaching out to the chairman at my behest a month ago, and let's go forward now, and hopefully we have the report or a draft of the report in the next couple of weeks, so we'll all have a path forward and a way to go forward.
Now, does this become public record at the draft, or is this once we see it, do you know the answer to that, Dennis?
Yes, it's a public record at that point.
Okay. If it's shown to me to review at the beginning, and I'm reviewing it to put my 2 cents worth in, does it become a public record, or is it when it comes to the committee?
That's a finer line. I think the answer is if you review it in paper and do not retain a copy, it is not a public record. But once it's disseminated on city email, it is a public.
I agree with, okay. So in other words, Michelle, if I'm more than willing to stop down, take a look at it, put my 2 cents worth in, give you my opinion, and then we can disseminate it, and if that's agreeable with the committee?
Yes, sir.
Wonderful. Perfect.
Sounds good.
I don't want somebody picking it apart in the newspaper before we get a chance to pick it apart. Mr. Brady, anything?
I'm good. I'm looking forward, as I think we all are, I'm looking forward to September.
Okay. Mr. Waddington, anything? I'm good. Mr. Saul?
I'm good.
Mr. Murray?
Thank you for the donuts, Michelle.
I'm fine, thank you.
You're
I don't know if Eric's still on there or not.
Yeah.
Yeah, he's still on.
Okay. Okay, Eric, anything? Well, if I hear nothing else,
Eric's
I'll-
muted. He's trying to talk.
I'm sorry.
Have a great day.
Yeah. Meeting is adjourned, and remind everybody the September 18th, and you may want to leave just a little extra time for that meeting.
More donuts.